In the year 756, after 37 years of peace between Bulgars and Romans, imperial troops once again amassed on the northern frontier in preparation for a land invasion of Bulgaria. The Eastern Romans had for the second time grown confident enough to outwardly challenge the political supremacy of the early Bulgarians and their Khan. They remilitarized their side of the border, transplanted settlers from Asia Minor into the same region, and stopped sending the Bulgars the annual tribute of gold, which had flowed now for almost 40 years. This diplomatic situation quickly turned to armed conflict, and the ingredients for another epic battle between Constantinople and Bulgaria assembled. Outside of the fortified Marcellae, the imperial tagmata and the local themes and border guards all assembled within the safety of their defenses. Simultaneously, 500 Roman boats had traveled along the Black Sea coast and were now attacking and raiding Bulgar and Slavic settlements along the Danube Delta with the aim of diverting Bulgarian military resources. Because early Bulgaria could only field a small fraction of the Eastern Romans' total available military forces, this diversion was successful in limiting the size of the Bulgarian army sent to defend the border. Yet a Bulgarian army was sent under the new Khan Vinech. This was a leader produced by the Vokil clan, which means he was unrelated to the former Han Asparuch and Tervel, who came from the Dulo dynasty and were responsible for 3 epic victories that cemented the first Bulgarian state approximately 4 decades prior. The reason for this dynastic shift in Bulgaria more than likely resulted from internal instability in its semi-nomadic Bulgars in the form of clan struggles. We don't have an exact count on the number of warriors present, but assuming the Bulgars sent half of their available horsemen and the local Slavs were able to provide an equal amount of infantry, there would have been approximately 6,000 Bulgar horsemen and an equal amount of Slavic infantry. The Slavs also fielded a small cavalry contingent armed with shields, javelins, and light armor. After 2 losses to the Bulgars due to poor preparation combined with hubris, the Romans under Constantine V were visibly taking a more practical and conservative approach this time, sticking to their strengths. As mentioned, the emperor took advantage of the Roman naval resources and greater troop count by attacking the Danube Delta with 500 ships, likely carrying approximately 10,000 infantry. This successfully limited the Bulgarian military response on the border. Further, they fortified Marcellae and their army camp in the standard Roman fortified fashion with ditch and rampart leaning into their engineering capabilities. Approximately 6,000 imperial tagmata and 12,000 local thematic troops from the theme of Thrace assembled outside of the fort. By leaning into their proficiency of siege warfare and taking advantage of their numbers, the Romans secured for themselves advantages that would ensure an uphill battle for the Bulgarians. The Romans had already taken the initiative by raiding the coast of northern Bulgaria, and Marcellae fortress may even have been in Bulgarian hands before being occupied. Because of this, Bulgaria's semi-nomadic warrior aristocracy would demand an immediate response. As such, Vinech accepted battle in this suboptimal location, relying on the typical step strategy of baiting the enemy into breaking formation and then charging their disorganized forces. Since the Romans had shown poor decision-making in their prior 2 battles with the Bulgars, this seemed like the most viable strategy, and realistically, it was one of the few paths to victory for the Bulgarians who lacked heavy infantry. Unfortunately for the Bulgar Khan, Constantine V continued to show competent judgment by ordering his forces to not chase. A clash of this style was usually characterized by intermittent charges of separate horse contingents at both range and melee. Roman thematic armies had at their disposal contingents of toxotai and akontistai, which translate to archers and javelineers. Additionally, the emperor's tagmata had a contingent of hippotoxotai, or mounted horse archers armed with a composite bow, a near replica of the Bulgar horsemen. In the open field, these units were easily crushed by the mass of Bulgar horsemen. Behind fortifications and supporting heavy infantry, however, they posed a significant threat to the mounted Bulgars and Slavs and were capable of causing minor but accumulating casualties by arrows and javelins. Both leaders seemingly displayed a realism not typically seen in this era. The Bulgar Khan recognized that the greater and growing Roman numbers in Marcellae and the pressure from the Roman navy on the opposite side of the country were a mortal threat to his nation. This was combined with a competent Roman emperor who knew how to properly use his infantry, especially in terrain more advantageous to heavy infantry. Khan Binek knew that a victory was far from guaranteed if he forced a pitched battle, so he opted to sue for peace, offering hostages as security. After all, if the Romans refused and pushed forward, then at least the Bulgars and Slavs could have the advantage of defending. Constantine V similarly displayed realistic decision-making, knowing that the Romans were thirsty for a win over the Bulgars and Slavs and had none to speak of so far. If he accepted the Bulgarian offer of peace and took hostages, this could be claimed as a legitimate win, especially considering the Romans had stopped paying tribute to Bulgaria, and accepting hostages was a sign of supremacy. Conversely, if Constantine attempted to push into Bulgaria and defeat the Khan's army, then he would really be exposing himself and his forces to significant risk of ambush. For these reasons, Constantine accepted terms and a tenuous peace once again resumed between Bulgaria and Constantinople. It's likely warhawks were dissatisfied on both sides, yet the dissatisfaction on the Khan side from the Bulgar warrior aristocracy bordered on rebellion. Even if Khan Binek's decision was based on good sense and logical thinking, the Bulgars he was attempting to persuade defined themselves as warriors, and many of them preferred death to submission. Having said that, many of the Khan's other Bulgar subjects were no longer nomadic and had settled in Moesia and Thrace with their sedentary Slavic, Roman, and other syncretic neighbors. It's hard to tell if the Bulgarian Khan made the best possible decision in this situation, as this was just a temporary ceasefire. However, as things stood directly after the peace, the Bulgarian country came out relatively unharmed in both its civilian and military infrastructure. And although the gold tribute from the emperor was suspended, this was a culture whose nomads were rapidly settling into many different cities, towns, and villages that produced their own surplus financial and cultural wealth.